All right, welcome everyone. We are so glad to have you here. My name is Sarah McAllister. I am the Senior Associate Director here in the Office of Alumni Career and Professional Development. We also have Nina Raffo, who is our Assistant Director in the same office, and she will be all things tech. And so if you have any issues or questions about tech stuff, feel free to direct message her. So I'm going to do a few housekeeping things, and then I'm really excited to hand it over to our presenter, Mauri Schwartz. I know it's going to be a great session today. So as you can see, the session is being recorded, and we will upload it to our YouTube channel this afternoon. Nina will drop the link in the chat. And so we have over 50 already recorded videos. If you haven't had a chance yet to check those out, you have access to any of our previous professional development sessions. I think actually that's all we're going to cover for today. For my stuff. So Mauri Schwartz, she is President and CEO of Career Insiders based out of San Francisco. She's also part of our Career Coach Network, which we will share more. And I know that she'll share on how to work with her and connect with her, but we'll also put that in our follow-up email as well. Mauri, I'm going to hand it over to you. Introduce yourself how you would like, and then thank you for being here. I know I always get a lot out of your session, so I'm excited.
Well, thank you, Sarah. And thank you everyone for coming today, spending your lunchtime with me. It's 10 in the morning where I am in San Francisco, but so it's still mid-morning, which is good. I am excited to be here today. It's been a while since I've spoken to Tulanians. And basically my job in life is to help you get a job, and job that you want, a good job. And what that involves is helping you market and sell yourself to employers, not just potential employers, but we want them to be the ones. If you want the job, we want them to hire you. So that's basically what I can tell you. A little quick thing is that I work with professionals across industries, across functions, which would be corporate or business functions. I work also with academia and other education fields, as well as healthcare, all sorts of fields. I'm working with an interesting person right now who helped Jane Goodall build her chimp sanctuary in Brazzaville, Congo. So it's just all he's a consultant, for companies that want to have business in scary places. Meaning, and not that Africa is a scary place altogether, but there have been some things going on. I have this puppy who's bothering me right now, so if you see me sort of trying to move her away, that's what my arm is doing. Anyway, so let's just get started. I think that we'll start. If you have questions, put them in the chat, and Sarah's going to field those. We'll see. I have a lot to say and not that much time to say it, so I will talk kind of fast. I'm hopefully we can get to your questions when you bring them up, but we may have to wait. Okay, so let's go. All right, why is this not working? Sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay, so first thing we want to think about is targeting your search, targeting your audience. So what that means is don't just apply for everything you see willy-nilly. The other thing I said about working with people across industries and everything, also all levels. So from recent college grad all the way to senior career status. So I just wanted you to know that wherever you are in your career right now, that's a good spot for me. And I do it because I love people and I'm curious. So I get to learn about what you do. Anyway, so when you start your search, you want to target, you want to look at what you have to offer an organization, and you want to say, okay, is this something I can sell? And you may want to, you look at a lot of job postings to say, okay, what are they looking for? And can I reasonably meet those qualifications? No, you don't have to have every single one, but if you don't have the main ones, then you might want to think twice about it. So this helps you and it helps them. Because then you're not spending a lot of time applying for positions that you're not going to hear back from, if you do somehow get in for an interview, you're not going to be able to sort of, advocate for yourself well enough. So then the second part of this is to tailor your resume so that the hiring manager or the recruiter gets it. You want them to think right off the bat, oh, this is a person I want to speak with. Now you have to realize that your resume is going to get maybe, I don't know, 6 to 12 seconds by the first reader, which is usually a recruiter or a screener or somebody, or the applicant tracking system does a lot of screening on keywords. So we'll talk just a bit more about the resume. We're going to spend more time on some other things, but we'll move forward with this. Okay, a resume is not a historical document. Okay, it's not an official document like a passport or something like that, where your name has to be exactly your given name and things like that. So it's a marketing brochure. You've all seen marketing brochures, you get them. It could be a physical paper brochure, it could be, something online that gets sent to you. It could be something about products, it could be a political campaign. So basically, hopefully you know that excuse me, I was taking this squeaky toy away. Hopefully that you know that when you get a piece of material or an ad in New Orleans for a candidate, that it may not be the same ad I see here in San Francisco. Okay, so they're customizing their marketing to the audience, and that's what you want to do. And it means that you have to spend more time on your resume than you might want to. And so we can go for it. And I'll put this out there right now, I have worked with a lot of clients who say, well, I don't want to customize my resume, I just want to use the same one. And if I need any customization, I put that information in the cover letter. Well, hardly any cover letters are read, period, even if they require it. Sadly, you have to write, if they do require it, you have to write it as if it will be read, but it's likely not to be. And I keep polling hiring managers and recruiters, and they all say the same thing. They go, if you send both, they go straight for the resume. Again, they don't have a lot of time, they're busy, so they go for the resume. So the hiring managers who say they do read your cover letter, they read it after they like your resume. Okay, so they go backwards. So anyway, I don't want to spend a lot of time on cover letters at this point, but I just want to say you can't, your resume has to stand alone. Okay, so what you want to do is identify their priorities. You want to make it easy for them to see you're the one they're looking for. Speak the same language, and what that means is you want to it's like French and English. Basically, if they're using certain terms for documents or processes, and that's the same as what you do, they just call it something different, use their language in your resume, because they may not get it. You get it, but they may not get it. And you don't have a lot of time to explain. Highlight your relevant achievements at the top. So I don't have a template ready right now to show you. If we have some time at the end, I can show you. But basically, I like using what I call a summary of qualifications or a profile at the top of a resume just before your professional experience. And it's a set of bulleted statements, maybe 3 to 5, not more than 5. And what you want to do there is you want to look at the job posting, the job description, and highlight in the job description their top 4 or 5 priorities. And then these bulleted statements at the top will address those particular requirements. And you will write a statement that illustrates you meet that requirement, not just name it, but something that you've done that would illustrate that you've done that. Since it's not a historical document, you're starting out with what they want. So let me put it this way. I come up with all these different analogies, but one of it is the hiring manager and the recruiter come to this meeting point. Your resume comes to that meeting point, and that hiring manager has a shopping list. And that's what you see in the job description. And you are the store. Well, you don't necessarily want to be a Costco that moves stuff around all the time. You want to make it easy for that hiring manager, that buyer, to get that you have the products or the skills that they're looking for. So, whoops, it's going backwards. So basically that's what the top part is. You're addressing what they want, not what you want and not what you think your wholeness is, but what they are telling you that they want. That way they go, oh, wow, she's got this, and then I'm going to talk to her, right? Obviously, if they have something that's a priority that you don't have anything to illustrate with that, then you don't mention it. We don't mention any negative things. Okay. And you also want to omit information that's not relevant. Everything on your resume should be relevant to the position you're targeting. Now, one of the things, since I talk about customizing your resume, I do talk about to people sometimes about having what I call a resume repository. I have a client, they call it a library. Basically, it's a resume that has all the statements you might want to use, and then that you pick and you choose from. So it's kind of like a menu, but it's your resume, and you've written all these cool statements, and you don't want to just lose them every time you customize a resume. So you've got them somewhere and you can pull them in. You don't want information that's not relevant. It can confuse the reader. It also may crowd out the good part. If they may have to read through more than they want to get to what I call the good stuff, which is the stuff that's relevant. Okay. So don't know if you've heard about the STAR. You are a STAR, and STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. And it's important to think about this both in a resume and an interview. And this whole business I just talked about, identify their top priorities and address them. That's the same thing you're going to want to do in an interview. So once you've done it for the resume, you will need to create more details when you're preparing for the interview. But basically, again, it's what they want, not what you want. Yes, there's certain things you want to know about a job at a company and the people when you're interviewing with them. However, you want them to fall in love with you first and foremost, and then you can decide. One of my other favorite phrases is, you cannot reject an offer you don't get. So if you want to go through the process, unless you just know for sure you don't want to do it, then you want to go through the process with as much enthusiasm as you can muster. And then say, when they've fallen in love with you, then you can ask some questions that may be a little bit more sensitive. You can decide what you want to do. So again, I'm not saying you should continue an interview process where you just hate it, but give them a little bit of a chance. You might change your mind. So the situation, task, action, result is, you want to have statements on your resume, and you want to answer questions, behavioral questions specifically, or especially in the interview, that are set up this way. So you want to make sure they understand the situation, what your part of that is, what were you tasked to do, and what you did and what was the result. And you could say this, you could look at this as PAR, and situation and task would be translate into problem. Then what you did and what the result was. It's really important not to leave out the result. A lot of people say, I did this, this, and this. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that the person on the other end understands the impact you had on the organization. So if you created a new procedure that that made things better, then you want to say, well, how do we know they made things better? So let's move forward. You want to try to use metrics whenever possible. They're not always possible. So for instance, what I just said, you created the first set of procedure user manual or something like that. Then you want to make sure it was the first ever in the company or in the organization or in the department. If you can say that decreased errors or increased accuracy, decreased the amount of time it took a new person to get used to the job. If you have any numbers on that, share them. If you don't, then at least make sure that they understand that the impact of what you did, at least in more in a more subjective sense. So basically, did you generate, with the metrics, did you generate new revenues? How much more? So if you're in sales or marketing, for instance, and you increased sales to 3 million, well, what does that mean? Was it 2.99 million before, which could be a good thing, or was it, something else? So sometimes the dollars will help you, and sometimes the percentages are better. So if you're working with smaller numbers, you might want to use percentages, because if you go from 4 to 5, it's 1, but it's 25%, right? So that sounds a lot better. Did you decrease costs? How much? Percentage, time, you can get that. Did you innovate or create something new? So this is not necessarily something you might be able to quantify, but as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, you want to say that, okay? And how did your contributions impact the organization? Again, this is the result part, all right? You want to make sure that the reader knows, okay, you impacted the company positively. On the other hand, if you were the cause of the company going belly up, I don't think I would put that on your resume or talk about it in an interview. Okay. Even when they ask you the question, tell me about a time you failed, that's not exactly the one you want to tell. Okay. So let's say you've got the perfect resume for the job. You've done everything I've told you to do, and you go, I feel good about this. And then you go, then you apply. And I always say, apply the way they tell you to, but don't hold your breath. So if you've all applied for jobs, I get this all the time. I applied to 10 jobs last week, and I haven't heard back from the ones I applied for the week before. So, I feel like it's just going into a dark hole, and I don't understand. And people tell me that it makes no sense to apply the way they tell you to, because you're not going to hear back anyway, and maybe those jobs aren't real. Well, that's not really true exactly, but you do have to figure that a recruiter who is and a screener, whoever's job it is to go into that applicant tracking system and pull out resumes, they're a busy lot. So that basically a recruiter's got, and especially these days with companies cutting back, they're cutting back on recruiting staff, and so recruiters got multiple jobs to recruit for, not just the one that you're applying to. So let's look at it this way. An applicant tracking system, it could be rudimentary, like it just stores the resumes and for per job, and the recruiter comes in and opens up that job and to see which resumes are there. It could be more sophisticated with AI, where the applicant tracking system actually does the first screen on the resumes, and it goes through and it picks out the resumes that match the right enough of the right keywords. So you know about that. But nevertheless, it's going to come up with a list of candidates who've applied for that job that meet the minimum of screening requirements for the system. So then we have a recruiter, and they're looking at a list. Just think about this as a results from doing a Google search. So there could be 100 or more people applying for the same job that you apply for. So the recruiter they're not going to look at all 100, no matter, it's not, I liken this to once years ago, I was shopping for a leather purse, a nice person in Florence, and I found what I wanted in the first store, but I insisted on looking at all the stores, and then I came back and bought the first one. So, but they're not going to do that, because you think of how much time and energy that would be wasted. So what they'll do is the recruiter says, okay, I have to present 3 screened candidates for the hiring manager to interview. And that means I have to review the resumes, and then I have to do, phone screen, and by the time they've done this a lot, they know on average, let's say I have to phone screen 10 or 12 people to get 3. Maybe it's more, but nevertheless, if they find what they're looking for before they get to the page that you're listed on. So Google, remember, pages and pages of results. And if you find what you're looking for in the first couple of pages, you stop. look at everyone to see who's the best. You just don't have time for that. So that, think of it this way. So you basically, it may be hit or miss as to whether or not they see your resume. So if you're not hearing back, it may not mean that you're being rejected. It may mean that nobody's looked at your resume. They've not even seen it. So that's something that you really want to think about, that you don't want to get too down for that, but here's a way to go around that. So how do you get, you've got the perfect resume. How do you get the interview? How do you get your foot in the door? So here's where, no matter what if you're a salesperson, you get it, what this is. If you're not, then sometimes, people go, I don't know if I can do that, but trust me, this is something you can and should do. So act like a salesperson. You identify the decision maker. And who is the decision maker? The decision maker is the hiring manager, not the recruiter. So the recruiter is basically the gatekeeper. And a good salesperson might, make nice with the receptionist, because that's a good thing to do. But the receptionist is never, unless they're selling something that like office supplies that the receptionist might have control over, but that receptionist generally is never going to be the one to sign the order. So the salesperson wants to find their way into the person who can say yes or no, but basically yes, and be a sleuth. So we're gonna go through a brief example about how to do this. So I'm telling you that you want to apply the way they tell you to, and then go at the same time. Don't even wait to hear whether you've heard back or not. You do this separately. So you identify the hiring manager. Now, if you look at jobs on LinkedIn, a lot of times they'll tell you who posted it, which is generally a recruiter. Now it might help. Some people want to, say, oh, well, I'm going to connect with that person, and so they'll see me. That could work sometimes, but then if everybody does that, then the recruiter stops looking at those messages. But everybody won't do what I'm going to tell you. So to reach out to the hiring manager. Okay, so we're just going to use this as an example. Basically, this job is a program manager at Qualcomm in San Jose, and it's 2 weeks ago, but that's okay. It's still posted. And the truth of the matter, this date right here, when it was posted, it may not be accurate, and it's more likely to be less than what the real thing is, because what happens is companies will look at their job postings, and that's every, I don't know, week or two, and they might say, well, it's coming up low on the search. It's been there a long time. People don't, we still need somebody, but so let's refresh our posting. So then it would get a new date. Same thing happens on other job boards. Anyway, so we're looking for this job. This is a great job for me. I have read the job. I have, adapted my resume for this job. I've used all their keywords, and I'm ready to, I've applied online. Now what? So what you want to review the job description, because sometimes the job description will tell you who it reports to by title, such as you'll be reporting to the senior director of program management or something like that. So this one didn't tell me that, but it does tell me that this job is in the engineering services group. I mean, Qualcomm is a big company, so sometimes it's hard to figure these things out. And I will tell you that A, the tactic doesn't work 100% of the time. What does? And B, sometimes it's hard to find out, discover the pieces you're sleuthing for. But I've been teaching this for 20 years, and it definitely works more often than not, and it's helpful. So it's worth trying. Okay, and once you do it a few times, it won't take as long. Okay, so here it says it's the person is in the engineering services group, because program management could be in any department in a company like that. So okay, so here we go. Here is I'm looking for the hiring manager, remember. So I go to the Qualcomm page, and I see it's got almost 39,000 employees. We're not looking at all of their profiles. And in fact, LinkedIn wouldn't let you look at that many anyway. But whoops, my keyboard is so sensitive, I just barely wave my hand around it and it goes forward or back or whatever. So they have a lot of employees. So what are we going to do? We're going to click on that though, because you could search at the top, but you have to figure out what you want to search for. And also, if you do a general search like up here, LinkedIn will bring you people who sometime in their career worked at Qualcomm. So we want to go to a place where we know we're searching for current employees, not just people who've worked there, who have it in their profile somewhere. Okay, so what we do is we clicked on that 38,500 and whatever, and this is what we get, the 39,000 results. But at the top, you're going to say people, current company, and all this. And what you're looking for is all filters. And some of you may know all filters and some may not, but it is a really key tool with LinkedIn. And it's not as good of a search tool as I'd like, but they don't want to give you too much for free. So anyway, but it's useful. Okay, so we're going to all filters to see if we can make, filter down this 39,000 to something usable. So we go there, even though we clicked on current people who are current employees, I still always like to check that it's the current company, that their current company is Qualcomm. Okay, so that's the first one. Then we scroll down this all filters and we go down to the title of the job title. We're looking for someone with a certain job title, basically. And sometimes like I said, if it told us that it reported to the senior VP of program management, then you might put that up at the top, with Qualcomm, and then you don't have to do all these separate searches, or you might put it in here, and to get a better, to make sure you're going to the right current person. And you could, so this is basically the department area, because I don't know exactly what the hiring manager's title is. If the job I'm applying for is a program manager, then who would be managing program managers? Okay. Sometimes if you can't find exactly, you can go a level above, but let's just see what we get. Okay. And obviously I'm going to show you an example that worked out fairly easily. That's why I'm not doing it in real time, because that would just take us more time and confusion. Okay, so I did that and I ended up with 4 results. And I have this person who's the director of engineering services at Qualcomm, Jorge Rosales. And I don't know for sure that he's the hiring manager, but I'm close enough. So I'm going to look at him. All right. I'm going to say maybe. And I think when I did this, I can't scroll down for you, but down below under experience, I think I found enough information that sort of reinforced the fact that he might be the one managing the program managers. And at any rate, he's involved. Their program managers are in his group. So if he's not the hiring manager, he works with the people and he might be able to tell you. Now he doesn't. Excuse me. He doesn't have his picture, but that's okay. He's a 3rd level connection. I'm assuming you all know what these levels are, and if you don't, you can, it's easy to find out. So basically, if I were connected on LinkedIn to Jorge, then that would say 1st. If I were connected to someone who was connected to Jorge, but I'm not connected to Jorge, it would say 2nd. That means there's one intermediary. If it says 2nd for you, then you want to look down here. It usually will tell you who you're connected to that Jorge is also connected to. And you may look at those people and you go, Mauri Schwartz is connected to Jorge and I know her. I'm going to ask her to introduce me to Jorge. But you have to use your judgment. You go, but last time we worked together, I made her really mad. She doesn't like me. So maybe she's not the best person to ask. So you use your judgment there. So you're not just looking at it for anybody who works at the company. You're looking for someone who's in this department. Oh, but no, if it's someone, an intermediary, it doesn't matter where they are. Because if they know Jorge, I mean, they could be, working somewhere other country in some other company, and that doesn't matter, but they know him. Now, a lot of us have a lot of connections by now, and all the time we've been using LinkedIn. So we may not remember all the people that it lists down below. So again, you have to make a judgment call because you want this to be impactful. And just a little bit more about that intro. What you want to do is when you ask me to introduce you, what you want me to do is, and I could say, oh, sure, send me your resume and I'll pass it along to Jorge. And you want to go, oh, that's great, thank you. But so you won't have to worry about it. You can be out of the picture after the intro. Could you just introduce me by email? Now, you want the introduction by email, and you're offering the intermediary you're making their life easier because they don't have to worry about getting it and sending it and whatever. There's not much control in this job search process, is there? But you want to have as much as you possibly can. And if you get an introduction by email, then one, the person actually did what they said they were going to do, because someone may say, sure, I'll put in a good word, sure, I'll pass your resume, and they may or may not intend on doing it. It could be that they have, they're, a tentative enough arrangement with Jorge, but they need that link for something else they want to do that they feel is more important for them, right? So it's a chit that but they don't want to say no to you. Nobody ever wants to say no. I don't feel comfortable doing it. Some people will say, I don't feel comfortable with the introduction, but I will pass your resume. Anyway, some people intend to do it, but it just gets, delayed. I mean, your message goes down below their screen on their email inbox, and they just forget about it. And they go through their emails on the end of the week and they go, oh, this is too late to do anything about it. But you won't know that I didn't do it anyway. You'll just know that it didn't produce any good results. So anyway, they did it. When they did it. Jorge's email address. So then you can, if that happens, the ball is in your court. If I'm the one who did it, you thank me separately. You write a separate email to Jorge, or you forward the intro back to Jorge, and you write a brief, nice to meet you. You write a very brief intro about why you're interested in the position, and you ask to schedule an appointment. You don't wait for Jorge to contact you, because you're the one who wants to meet Jorge. And if you don't follow up, the ball is in your court. If you don't do anything with it, that's not going to look good. Okay, so you got that. Here we are. Jorge is third. So I don't know anybody who knows him that at least through LinkedIn. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's see. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to do some research on that person. So when I do contact them, I will know, I'll have read their profile. Maybe I found something in common that's worth mentioning. I mean, I can tell you that if I see somebody and they have Tulane on their profile, I use that as an intro. Because, if they had University of California, I wouldn't use that, because everybody out here is, I mean, there are millions of I do have a degree from Cal too, but it's just not worth it. But if I'm on the West Coast and I, see someone Tulane, I will talk about it. Okay. So you're looking for something in common. It could be, something you do in your, on their interests, like they're head of a children's lacrosse coach or something. I don't know. Lacrosse isn't that common either. So, maybe it's something you have in common. It could be a company you've worked for or something like that. So anyway, do some research on the person, try to find, we did that. Introduce yourself, figure out their email address, put your cover letter message into the body of the email and attach only your resume. And we know that that's going to be a PDF of your resume. So you'll be submitting your resume twice or more. So for instance, you will have already applied the way they tell you to, and you'll be sending it to Jorge in an email. But you might have found there might have been a couple of people, with similar titles that you thought, well, it could be this person, it could be that person. I say do both of them, not together, completely separate. And don't say that you applied online, because you're not lying about it, but you're just not bringing it to his attention, because he'll go, well, if you applied online, then I don't have to worry, somebody in the recruitment will take care of it. And okay, so let's say what's the use of doing this? What's the probability that something good's going to happen? Well, first of all, your email to Jorge could go into his spam folder, never sees it. Could go into his inbox, he sees it and he doesn't have time, he deletes it. Could go into his inbox and sees that it's someone applying for the job and he doesn't have time to look at it, but he forwards it to the recruiter. That's a good step, because remember, the recruiter has that big list, Google-like search list to go through. If it comes from the hiring manager, that recruiter is going to open it up and look at it. You still might not get caught, but at least they will be looking at your resume. I mean, that's what this is all about. The hiring manager could open up the resume and look at it and send it to the recruiter, said, to call this person. That's even better. Or the hiring manager could say, oh, I like this person, I'm going to respond directly to their email. So these are all the things that happen. I mean, the first two don't help you, but they also don't hurt you. If you send this to the hiring manager, wait, and you don't hear anything from a recruiter, then in a week later, what you should do, follow up with the hiring manager once. And what you want to do is take the email that you sent with your resume and forward it back to that person and just say up at the top, I know you're busy, just wanted to make sure you had a chance to see my email from last week. And then, again, don't hold your breath, because it's just going to make you blue in the face and you might die. But anyway, these are things. So follow-ups help. I mean, I'm the kind of person who gets an email and I try my best to respond to everything except just super spam stuff. And I spend my life, unsubscribing to things I never subscribed for, and it doesn't matter. But at any rate, so what now I kind of lost. Anyway, so you follow up, but you don't want to become a pest. So you do it one time, and that's, oh, I know, I was saying I'm the kind of person, if I don't answer your message in 4 or 5 days or a week, feel free to email me again. I don't feel like you're a pest at that point. I just feel like, okay, I'm sorry, I should have followed up, done this earlier. But if you keep doing it and I don't do anything, then I'm gonna probably block you. It depends on what you say, I mean, I'm not gonna do that, because I would, at that point, I would write you back and say, no, thank you, or something. But that's not how everybody else is. So also, if you get an automated email that says, thank you for applying, but we're looking elsewhere, if it comes right away, still do this, okay? Because if it comes right away, a human being has not read your resume. It might just not have passed that machine learning screen. So then you may look at your resume and go, okay, what am I missing? And then do it to the hiring manager, okay, so let's go forward. Oh, I said email, right? So you can't email Jorge unless you know Jorge's email address. So I mean, I used to use other tools and things like that, but this is works most of the time. So I put the company in the email format. And what we learned here is that the QTI goes in front of the email address. Now, this is a company that makes money on, finding emails and so forth. There's Never Bounce, there's Rocket Reach. I use Rocket Reach most of the time. So you can get an account with these, and like Rocket Reach, you can get a free account with Rocket Reach, and it gives you 5. And actually, there's some really good information beyond just the email address. It gives you 5 searches on the site a month, which is not a lot when you're in the, when you're doing a lot of job search activity. But I don't have any idea how much the paid membership is and what it gives you, because I just use the other one, and I'm mostly looking for people for my clients. But if you do a Google search without an account, all this other stuff comes up, and so it's giving you this one. But what usually happens is the following. If you sometimes it'll have in the Google search, it'll have something. Okay, we're stuck again. Okay. So sometimes this is the never bounce page when I clicked on them. So they have a lot of different ones. As you can see, this was the most, but it's only 23%. So it could be it, and I don't know what this possible is. So here's the thing though, if it's not right, it'll bounce back. So you can try one of the other ones, but most of them, the answers you get back from Rocket Reach are the ones where, it's like 80% of something and then some other ones. Then you can find out. Now, some companies like Google and maybe Facebook, they don't have, or is it Microsoft? They don't have a specific format. They have, anybody can do what they want. So for example, the whole idea here is premised on the fact, on the hope that the company has a standard email format. So you're not looking for Jorge's email, you're looking for anybody's email. There's another way I do this is I would do a Google search on, in quotes, I would put @ and the domain name. But sometimes, so if I were to look up the company, I'd probably get qualcomm.com, not the QTI part. But the vast majority of companies have a standard format, and the vast majority of them have an email address that uses the same domain that their website is in. So, but I just wanted you to see this because it might have come up differently, and because Qualcomm matched the rest of my example. So at any rate, if you have trouble choosing, then just send one to all of them. Don't even, because they bounce back pretty quickly. And the one that doesn't bounce back, you can assume that is the right one. Okay, so we went through that. Networking is another key piece of your job search. You all know that, and being at in person. I mean, we're now, fortunately, we don't have to do everything by Zoom. So it's time to go back to in-person events. And I call anything with 2 or more people as a networking event. So, you just, when you have lunch with your friend, then you talk about things, and you never know, people have ideas. Also, when you're thinking about building your resume, people that you've worked with in the past, or people you've known who you've told work stories to, will likely remember something you've done that you might not be thinking about. So, I mean, once a long time ago, I was doing a resume and for myself, and I was talking to a friend about, I don't know, when we used to work together. Actually, I never ended up working for her, but because her job got dropped, but we had a really great interview and eventually we became friends. She said, well, one of the things I remember most about you is what you told me that you did at blah, 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 when you did this. Now, how she remembered, I don't know, because I didn't remember, but that's what happens. Some people remember things more than you do, and you'll remember things about them. So those are, that's a networking in and of its own, just collaborating on that. But go to events where you're likely to meet new people, and make sure you introduce yourself and you learn about them. Don't be selfish, always ask about them, and always have a sentence or two about you and what you're looking for. So what are you going to do with all these people in your network, all your people in LinkedIn and wherever else you belong, whether it's a church or a synagogue or a sports club or a book club, anything. So basically, I always say, don't ask for a job. So when you have, these people in your network, you're looking for a job, don't ask them, are there any jobs you know of in your company? Don't ask it outright. don't ask, necessarily, are there any jobs you know of? Well, they might, but it's better to use those people when you find a job and you know the company and you want to ask them if they know anyone at the company, or do they know Jorge? Or you'll find that on LinkedIn if you're connected to them on LinkedIn. So then you can go to them and say, you have something specific to request of them, which would be that intro. The reason is people generally want to help you. People you're close to or well, they generally want to help you, but you can't ask them to figure out what it is they can do to help you. You need to be able to ask for something specific. And I like to make it as easy as possible for them to say yes. So when you want to talk to them, let's say you want to meet with them, don't ask for an informational interview. And I know that all of you probably have heard that. Go get informational interviews, then you can find out what it's like at a company, and even if there isn't a job for you, and blah, 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 blah. Don't ask for an informational interview. What do you ask for then? If you don't ask for a job and you don't ask for an informational interview, what? Well, first of all, this is, if you want to get, pick their brain. If you have a specific ask for a specific job, then that's what you ask for. But if you want an information interview, you ask for a chat. So no, I'm not against informational interviews, but I'm against the phrase because it's too formal, and it probably connotes that it's more time that you'll ask from the person, and then they'll go, well, I don't have any jobs then I'm going to feel uncomfortable. What do I do after meeting and talking to them? What you ask for is for a chat. Now, chat 5 to 20 minutes. That's what people think of. Ask for that. And then when you get to talk to them, stick to the time frame that they said they had. But if they want to go over, you can, and then you make good use of it. You want to be cognizant of other people's times and their level of comfort with it. So you want to make it as easy as possible to do that. So you ask for a chat. So remember, this is for the interview, and I know I'm running low on time, so I'm going to talk even faster. These will be available. Well, this is going to be, the recording will be available. It's not about what you want, it's about what they want. I started this out with the resume. This is the same for the interview. You've seen this before. Identify their priorities, make it easy for them to see you're the one they're looking for, speak the same language, highlight your achievements using STAR, and omit, and don't talk about things that aren't relevant unless they ask specific questions. So I was going to talk a little bit more about interviewing, but we don't have time. So I hope I provided some information. What I try to do in these is, especially when we have like a short amount of time, I want to give you the tips that aren't the same things you're reading everywhere else. And I've been doing this for a really long time, and they work. So, sometimes you get differing opinions about what to put at the top of a resume. Is it a paragraph or is it bullets? And I'm going to stick with my bullets. I'm going to stick to my gun with the bullets, and so forth. So, but you have the choice of doing it the way you want to. I just want you to know what I found after all these years. And yes, life is different than it was 20 years ago, before and after COVID. But in reality, when you're selling yourself for a job, it's all the same. I mean, we have some technology that we can use, which is good, but basically, people are, who are hiring are looking for people that can do the job well and who they feel comfortable working with. So you have to have two things. You have to have the skills to do the job, and you have to be someone who the team and the hiring manager will feel will work well in the group. You may be, unless it's such a rare type of skill set, they're not going to, you might have all the qualifications, but they're not going to hire you if you're just a dud or a mean or whatever. So, so that's that. But if you don't have the skills, then you can be as nice as you can, and that's not going to do it either. So thank you for listening today. Good luck in your search. We have like 3 minutes, so if there's a question, I'll be happy to ask.
Mauri, there's two questions. One of them is a real easy one. Can you just go back to the last slide briefly? Someone wants to see that again. Great. And then the other question is, thoughts on having your application material stand out for remote positions nationally, and applying definitely feels different than local positions. So can you talk a little bit about the remote for national roles?
Well, most these days, most jobs will tell you whether they're, remote or hybrid. And if they don't say so, then that means they're probably in person. I don't think that that's different. I think it depends on the organization. And so if you're on LinkedIn, then you want to make sure people understand that, that you're available to work other places remotely, for companies that are in other places that remotely. But the rest of it is still is the same. And if you have areas that you want to look at, then you can always sort LinkedIn by location. But in terms of what you present, it should be your qualifications, and you should focus on jobs that say they're remote. It's hard to ask for it later. If they say that if they don't say it's remote, then it's dangerous to hope that they'll let you start off right off the bat and working remotely.
That makes sense. And then I see that Whitley has their hand raised. So if you want to put it in the chat or come off mute just to ask.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool. I have a question about recruiters. Oftentimes I hear so many people saying that they're working with a recruiter or going to contract their recruiter or things like that. What is the best way to find a recruiter in my area of work to begin working with, or does that kind of come naturally? I'm kind of confused about that process.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, all right, I've got two halves of this question. One of which is your question, what that means, if they're working with a recruiter, it means they're working with an independent recruiter at a firm that does a search firm, not a recruiter in in a company. So when up till now, when I've used the word recruiter, I was talking about recruiters inside the organization. Okay, they could be called talent acquisition specialists or whatever. So cool. When they're working with recruiters, that's a little bit the old way. And if it's still doing that, that's great. But, you have to think of this, recruiters, it could be a recruiter who's recruited them in the past for a different job, and they say now they're looking for something. It could be, but recruiters are paid. What do you do, first of all? Whitley?
I work in hospitality, so I'm on the corporate side of the hospitality group here.
Okay, and what's your title?
Executive assistant.
Okay, so
to the CEO, yeah.
So there are, if you want to find good, you can always Google recruiting firms in certain areas and then contact them. But recruiters are paid by the company to find them the people they want. So if you're not the person, if they're working on jobs for 2 or 3 companies and you're not the one fit for them, they don't have as much use for you. And sometimes they'll, hopefully they'll be friendly enough to say, well, we'll save your resume and, we'll let you know if something comes up. Or they might say, we don't have, they might, if you ask, give you some of their time to talk about what you do. But generally, these days, and that's what I always did, but they don't always do that much anymore. Sometimes you don't hear back from them because they're going to spend their focus on what the company needs. Their job isn't to be your agent, if and people think about that all the time. And people ask me, well, is there an agent that would do it the other way but their fee is going to be based on your salary, and they only get paid if a deal is made and they place you somewhere. So I was a recruiter, and good recruiters are good find them and stick with them. But you should be doing most of this on your own. You know, and besides, think about this: if the company has to pay the recruiter 25% of your salary as a fee, then you're cheaper to go by. You know, it's financially beneficial for them to hire you directly.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
And it looks like, just to keep going here, somebody DM'd me their question, I think, instead of putting it in the chat. Jill asked, besides LinkedIn, do you have any other top job search network?
Yeah, well, so there's always Indeed, which drives me crazy. There's Glassdoor, but just use Google. Just put in at the top of the Google screen, you know, the job title and maybe where you want it. And they will list opportunities that are posted on all sorts of sites. Like, I can't even remember any of the names. So sites that you don't think of and you don't really want to spend all your time on that site, but Google will find them for you.
All right, we've got one more, Peter, if you want to ask a quick question. We have about 2 more minutes.
Yeah, just a cautionary tale on dealing with recruiters that approach you through LinkedIn is that once you have engaged a recruiter, it's possible that if they're not being sponsored by a hiring company, that will exclude you from the candidate pool. And this happened to me a while back. But someone, just because I had a conversation with them through DMs, they claimed that I had engaged them as a recruiter, and there are costs associated with using a recruiter. So it's really important to be careful that you don't stumble into a relationship that's going to exclude you from candidacy.
That's a good point, because, you know, and if you do engage with the recruiter, make sure they are not to send your resume anywhere that you haven't pre-approved. Because if you're also applying and they're applying, then, and it goes in both ways, and the hiring manager wants to talk to you and the recruiter's involved, then you're the one that loses out, basically, because the company's not going to mess with you if they have to go through some, you know, shenanigans and legal dealing with a firm. Don't let them, and make that up front. If they won't talk to them, if they won't agree with that, then don't work with them.
Mauri, I feel like we'll have to bring you back just to talk about your experience as a recruiter and tips and tricks for anybody.
That'd be good.
That'd be great. Thank you so much for your time today. Do you want to just send us off with any final thoughts?
You know, good luck. You know, people ask me, what about the market, job market? It is what it is. You just go forth and put your best foot forward and do everything you can to highlight, you know, what you have to offer, and, you know, use this sort of contact the hiring manager to put you, you know, above some of the other candidates. And good luck. If you need, my contact information is there. Let me know if you'd oh, by the way, Tulanians get a discount. So if you want to hire me, then you get a discount.
And she's great. So definitely check her out.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Mauri. Thank you, everyone. We'll be in your
Thank you.
inbox recording. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
all.
you so much.